At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
We're influenced by living here, so the shitty weather all the time just makes us more miserable by default.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
Hey, I'm Michael. I play guitar in a band called Vacuous.
Hello, I'm Ezra. I play the other guitar in Vacuous.
Michael and Ezra, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
If you don't mind me asking, how would you describe the music of Vacuous? What is Vacuous?
Broadly speaking, I guess it's death metal. I mean, it's a kind of death metal that's personal to us, I suppose. It's, I guess, fairly raw, organic, and emotional in a lot of ways, but I don't really feel the need to come up with some kind of specific subgenre or label for it. Just death metal. If you say that, people will know whether they're going to bother checking it out or not. So anything beyond that is a bit futile for me.
Ezra, anything to add?
Just basically, I agree with Michael. I guess if you were going to categorize it, it would fall into death metal, but there's lots of other aspects to it and other experimental stuff that we've thrown in the mix too.
Are you guys based in London?
Yeah, we were originally, and we still call ourselves a London band, but we're kind of spread out now. Some of us are down on the coasts near Brighton, and some of us are still in London. And actually, Ezra, you're up in Durham now, right? So
Yeah, I'm up north.
Yeah. But for marketing purposes, we're a London band.
Yeah, keep it easier.
Based and spread around the UK. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you feel that there's something intrinsically British about your sound?
Maybe, I don't know. The weird thing is, like, Ezra and I are like the guitar players, and neither of us are actually British, which is kind of
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I suppose like I've always been drawn to like, a lot of British music, and because it's just really miserable sounding stuff. So maybe that's kind of seeped into the music. But yeah, I don't know, Ezra, do you feel like we have something intrinsically British?
Well, I guess we're influenced by living here. So the shitty weather all the time just makes us sound more miserable by default.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess like, I don't know, some of the bands that I really love, like, I don't know, just like off the top of my head, like Paradise Lost and Carcass, like it, like, I think maybe if there is a British thing, it's like just pulling from different sources and just making it just this miserable amalgamation of stuff.
Sure. Michael, can you tell me a little bit about how Vacuous came together? And Ezra, how you ended up joining the band?
Yeah, sure. I'll start.
Mm-hmm.
So the band started basically when me and Joe met in, I guess, late 2019. We were introduced by like kind of a mutual acquaintance of ours, a guy called Seth, who sings in a hardcore band called Stiff Meds. And I was talking to him about how I was, I'm starting to write extreme metal stuff and was looking to put a band together. And he was like, I know this guy called Joe, who's a drummer, who's really into all this stuff. So yeah, we met and hit it off. And Joe knew a guy called Damien who he jammed with. So basically we kind of combined into Vacuous. At the beginning, Joe was doing drums and vocals, kind of like Autopsy, I guess. So yeah, we just kind of jammed for a bit, ended up recording a really rough demo in our rehearsal room, which was mainly just for us to kind of figure out what we were doing. And yeah, then COVID hit. So like we weren't able to play any shows. So I think that made us just focus on our songwriting during that period. We were able to like, send ideas back and forth remotely. And that's what turned into our EP Catabasis. That came out at the end of 2020. And then because we hadn't really performed that stuff as a group, it was like, let's just write the songs we want to write. We realized like we've gotten too ambitious in our songwriting in terms of what we could handle in that format. So Joe ended up stepping down from drums and we got Max in to be our drummer. And similarly with guitar, the songs required another guitar player, and that's where Ezra comes in.
Yeah. So at the time, I was doing something similar to this. I was running a underground music magazine called Chad. Eventually, I'll pick that back up again. But so that was also COVID born. So I remember hearing Vacuous's Catabasis and thought, live in the same country as them. Should interview them. Sounds good. And then I guess I hit it off with them. Joe knew I played guitar, and whilst they were looking for a second guitarist, they reached out to me, and then here I still am.
Yeah.
Ezra, what was it about their music that you liked?
I guess the same characteristics that Michael described at the beginning, really. Just the raw feel to it, the slightly emotional side, and also just the oppressiveness of it, really.
Michael, when you and Joe formed the band, what were your goals? What were you hoping to accomplish with this?
Honestly, it was not, there wasn't really any kind of preconceived thing of like, we want to achieve this or that with the band. For both of us, this was like the first project that I'd actually, managed to release music. Like, I'd wanted to be in a band for a long time. And I realized that like I came to it fairly late in life. Like, Vacuous started when I was 27. I'm in my 30s now. Most people kind of get that underway a lot younger, and I'd spent most of my 20s working kind of soul crushing corporate jobs. So I kind of came into it being like, I need to just at least say that I've done a demo, like that I've done something, had some creative outlet. So there's kind of like a sense of desperation going into like the very first demo. That sounds kind of tragic, but so yeah, honestly, then me and Joe just kind of clicked in some ways in terms of we had a lot of common ground musically, but really different personalities. And then that kind of became a challenge in of itself of how we could make it work. And then it just grew organically from there. We kind of realized that we could be more creative with the band. And yeah, that's ultimately what's kept it interesting enough for us to keep doing it after all these years.
When you and Joe first started writing songs, how were you doing it? Were you jamming together? Were you trading riffs back and forth?
Yeah, at the very beginning, like the first demo that we put out, that was in the room, like jamming. But we don't really do that anymore. We've moved to kind of like, let's demo stuff let's write a song structure at home, send it back and forth to each other, get feedback, and then when we feel like it's worth our time to kind of pursue, then we'll get in the room and hash it out together.
Do most of the songs start with you?
Generally speaking, it's kind of, that's just because I've been in the band the longest. I guess the majority of the songs start with me, but that is starting to change now.
Sure. Would you say that the basis of most of your songs are the riffs? Are you a very riff-based songwriter?
Yeah, I think the riffs, that's something that like we all kind of click with, the riffs, but the riffs also need to serve the song. Like, I'm not too precious about the riff being the focus. It has to serve the song ultimately, and like it has to convey some kind of emotion as well. There's not a lot of guitar noodling in our band. There's not a lot of room for that, or for anyone to kind of like, I don't know, show off like technical prowess.
Right.
I don't think any of us are really into that.
Yeah. In terms of the demos that you write, how complete are the songs when the rest of the guys hear them?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of when I feel like I've had my input, in terms of the structure that makes sense, but it will always change. Like, I don't think there's been a single song that we've stuck to the exact arrangement as per the bedroom demo, because yeah, like that's something we always wanted, is for it to feel like a band, not just us recreating bedroom demos. And I think with this new album, In His Blood, like we really spent the time in the rehearsal room to get that chemistry right.
On this album that you're about to put out at the end of February, which song would you say changed the most from your original demos to what we hear on the album?
I don't know. What do you think, Ezra?
I can't remember the original demos.
I'm gonna say it's probably Hunger. Like,
Yeah,
because do you
I reckon
remember?
so. Yeah.
Because so we one of the things on this album was like this. We looked to sort of like post punk and goth as kind of like a thing to draw inspiration from, just because of like we just were trying to figure out a way to like get the like atmosphere and darkness from those styles of music, but with the sort of violence and oppression of death metal. And I think like my first sketch of that song and the song Contraband were very like kind of clumsy in a way. Like it's very like here's the post punk bit, here's the death metal bit, and it took a lot of time between like us in the room, and also thanks to our producer Stan, to just not make it really like ham-fisted and like kind of cliche, and just sound like a genuine organic thing. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you program drums on your demos?
Yeah, it's like not with the impression that Max is going to respect what I do. It's just like it's like a placeholder.
Right. Thrash beat, double bass, blast beat, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, Max is very much like a drummer's drummer, so like he takes his like fill writing and all that stuff very seriously.
Ezra, do you want to add anything about the arranging process?
I'm not sure how much there is to add, really. I mean, yeah, it normally starts off with a riff, like Michael said, but not just a riff for the sake of a riff, if you know what I mean. The riff that you can build on with kind of a greater context that will work rhythmically with the drums or even with certain vocal placements. And nothing too crazy or complex that you wouldn't be able to build on top of with the other instruments. And then it just goes back and forth for a while. Zach will add a bass line over it. We might go back in and add some solos. And then when we're ready, we get in the room.
having two guitarists, what do you think the role is of the second guitar? Do you look to harmonize? Do you look to just beef up the existing parts?
Both those things, to be honest. Having two guitarists in the band allows the flexibility to keep a certain riff or a certain rhythm, whatever it is, going, whilst another guitar can go off and do something completely different, whether or not that's a melody on top or its own solo or even a different part.
Yeah, I think like from my end of like the like realization of like, oh, we need another guitar player in the band is like when I figured out how to write a harmony. That was definitely like a big one for me. Just being like, this sounds good with one guitar, but just having another one doing the same thing, further up the scale, it just like it becomes like more than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the time we're having this conversation, you guys are set to release your second full-length album, which is called In His Blood, through Relapse Records, at the end of February.
Yeah.
When did you guys start working on this album?
I feel like it's like it wasn't one specific writing period. Some of the earliest stuff was written like quite soon after Dreams of Dysphoria was recorded, and some stuff was like a year later. So that would be, I guess, late 2021 to, I think, like I've wrapped up writing in like at the end of 2022, and then 2023 we just like spent that year rehearsing the stuff and doing the arrangements, and it was recorded in September 2023. So we've actually been sitting on this stuff for like what feels like a really long time at this point.
Was that due to the label or finding a label or anything like that?
A bit of that, not to throw anyone under the bus, but like vocals took a long time to record this time around. And yeah, like we didn't have a label lined up before recording. We knew we were going to shop around, so it was just going through that process and signing with Relapse, and then obviously joining their kind of turnover and their release schedule obviously added to some of the delay.
You talked about how your songwriting has expanded since the early days and adding some new influences, post-punk, maybe some more Paradise Lost kind of stuff. Was the goal always to expand on what you did on the first album, to try to branch out into new stuff?
I mean, I guess it's not necessarily like expanding from that album. It's just like trying to see each time what we can get away with, and like what we can filter through the lens of Vacuous. And I think each time each song we write, we try something new and see what sticks. But yeah, some of the stuff like the first single, the title track In His Blood, and some of the faster songs, those are the first songs to be written, and that was kind of in reaction to Dreams of Dysphoria being this really like slow, free form, like death doom kind of thing. And I think intrinsically, like we wanted to do something that was more immediate and spontaneous sounding, just because we just didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves in that kind of cavernous death doom niche that we could easily have gone down.
It's an interesting statement. What can you get away with in Vacuous? What's the answer to that? What can you get away with, and have you ever done something that you guys feel like, no, this is wrong for this project?
I guess as long as it feels right, you can get away with it, I guess. But to get away with it makes it feel like it's something that we shouldn't be doing, if you know what I mean. To get away with it makes it sound like we're taking a risk that we don't really want to take. But I guess a lot of the stuff that we do that we haven't done before, it's kind of, we have the idea and we sit on it for so long that feels more like charging forward instead of necessarily trying to sneakily get away with it or anything like that. Right.
I mean, if you don't mind my outsider perspective, I think some of the stuff that you're talking about on Contraband is really interesting, and maybe why Relapse was interested in you guys, because this isn't another incantation core band. Do you know what I mean? Like, this isn't another cavernous death metal band. It seems like you guys are really finding a voice that's separate from, you know, building on influences, but separate from maybe what else is going on in the scene.
Ye-
So you know, in terms of that creative exploration, I'm curious if you've ever hit something where you felt like, you know, it's not right for Vacuous, or maybe not right for Vacuous right now.
Yeah, I think definitely I do like the idea of bands evolving, but I do think there's like a right way of doing it. There was a song that actually we wrote ages ago to be the closer of Dreams of Dysphoria, and it was a little bit too out there at the time, and we ended up cutting it. But because, you know, I like bands that evolve, but it needs to be kind of a gradual thing, an evolution rather than a change, if that makes sense.
Right.
And like with this one, you know, I think we pick up on some things that we had on Dreams of Dysphoria, but we've introduced new ideas like the song Contraband, like you said, Hunger, etc. And then like just thinking about where we're headed with the next one, we're kind of going to pick up some elements from this record and kind of expand on those. But then looking back, if you were just to take like, you know, the first record and then where we're headed on the next one, it'll probably seem like quite a jump, I think. But so I think in terms of ideas that we're like, no, we can't do that. It's like if it seems jarring and if we don't feel like we're able to execute them properly, then we won't do them. Like, you know, we do a lot. We're starting to do more melodic stuff, but like I wouldn't feel comfortable asking Joe to be like, can you do clean vocals or something like that? Like, you know, that's not something we'd entertain at this point in the band. But, you know, as I said, I'm a big Paradise Lost fan, so maybe in 2 albums time we'll be doing Coldplay type songs.
I mean, I was a big Anathema fan. I think I still am a big Anathema fan, and that's a band that, like, you know, if you put like their first album and their last album side by side, you'd be like, there's no way this is the same band. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I haven't gone super far with them. I mean, I love Serenades, but I haven't gone really deep into their discography, which is weird because I'm super into Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
And I'll defend any album they put out.
Yeah, they're an interesting band. I feel like they were, like, I think all those bands kind of started off with this, you know, Celtic Frost, Autopsy kind of, you know, influence. But with Anathema, there was a lot of Pink Floyd, and that's probably where they really started to get like far away from what everyone else was doing. Yeah, like Pink Floyd finally made sense to me after owning, you know, whatever it was, 7 Anathema albums.
Yeah.
I could finally go back to that old prog rock stuff and be like, okay, I get this now. Sorry, huge tangent. As far as the evolution though, how much of that is you know, you guys getting used to each other as collaborators?
I think that's the main bit, really. Like, I think we're just more comfortable. Like, I'm definitely more comfortable submitting like ideas to the guys, knowing that they'll be like receptive to them at least, even if, you know, we don't go through with all of them. And yeah, I think we all know kind of our strengths and weaknesses a lot more as a band, so that helps.
Yeah, there's a lot more space for submitting riskier things, because even if they're not received well, it doesn't matter. You know, you can discard the idea and move on with a new thing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if one of us writes a song that, you know, is bad, it usually will stay between us, and that's fine. And it's like we've discarded more songs than we've released.
Yeah, no one else needs to know.
Than we've released at this point. So
yeah.
Tell me where you guys recorded the album.
That's Holy Mountain Studios, which is in East London, and we recorded with a producer called Stanley Gravett, who had a pretty active role, I'd say, in how the album turned out. He was kind of involved from, you know, that early demoing stage. Like we were sending him demos, and he was actually giving us feedback on arrangements. So in a sense, he was like the 6th member of the band in a lot of ways.
Stanley also worked on the split you guys did a couple years ago, right?
That's right. Yeah, that was the first time we worked with Stan.
Yeah, recorded at Holy Mountain as well.
What do you like about working with Stanley? I mean, you talked about some of the feedback he gave you as far as arrangements. Is that a lot of it?
Yeah, and I mean, he's someone that we enjoy kind of seeing socially anyway, and it's just, we've recorded in studios before and with like very competent engineers, but it's like you have to put a lot of work into getting someone to know who you are and what you're about and stuff. And it's like we've put in that work with, well, it's just like developed naturally with Stan. So I think it's just like just that level of comfort of just being able to bounce ideas off him and knowing that he's going to be engaged in it and give us good feedback. And yeah, he's just like he's obviously he's genuinely into what we do and wants to see us do well. Like he just made himself really available to work with us, gave us access to his studio. Well, the studio works into like do pre-production demos, which is something we hadn't done before, and it was just like really helpful for us to get an idea how the finished product was going to sound.
In terms of the finished product, what did you want Stanley to bring to In His Blood?
I guess a outsider's perspective in a way, because it's all nice and good, just the five of us sending stuff to each other, but it can become a bit of an echo chamber. So having someone who knows what we're about and knows where we want to be headed musically, but who isn't actually in the band playing the music, can offer a great fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like he understood like that this was going to be a different album for us. So he wasn't going to try to recreate what we'd done before. And he's just someone who's like I hope he wouldn't mind me saying, like, he's just like excited by stuff being extreme and weird. That's kind of like what seems to drive him in his career path. Like that's what gets him. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a job for him. Like he enjoys making things extreme and weird, and it's like we're happy to work with him on that as well and trust him with some of his production choices. And yeah, it just felt like a really kind of creative and healthy environment.
In terms of the production, how would you compare the sound of In His Blood to Dreams of Dysphoria?
It's more like raw and unhinged, I would say. Yeah. Dreams of Dysphoria, I think, came out like in a sense like pretty closely to what we had in mind. Like, I don't know, is that how you felt, Ezra, as well? Like I think there weren't any surprises for me on Dreams of Dysphoria in terms of the finished product.
No, it was very much, we had the demos, we went in with the set idea in our head, even with the click track and stuff to do the drums and guitars. It was sorted and it sounded exactly what we wanted, but there wasn't any surprises or anything.
Yeah, whereas this, like, we ditched the click track completely on In His Blood, so there's always that kind of adds that element of unpredictability. So yeah, I guess like obviously the things we would do differently if we could go back. Doesn't mean we're dissatisfied with it in any way. Like I think it's great because it's not fully controlled, which I think is good, and that's how the band sounds in real life. So I think Stan did a good job of capturing that.
Did you want some of that unpredictability from your live shows?
Yeah, I mean, like we're not the tightest band in the world, and there's no point pretending that we are. But we play hard, and I think that comes across whether we're technically playing the right notes or not.
Yeah.
Did Stanley handle everything up to the master?
Yeah, he recorded, mixed, and then we sent to Brad Boat Rights to master it.
Yeah, Audio Siege.
Why Brad?
Ezra, you worked with him first, actually, right?
Yeah, I worked with him for a side band, Bastard Mycosis. I think, I don't know, the question is just kind of why not Brad, to be honest.
Right, yeah.
See, the stuff he does is just really good. I think as well, a part of the reason with Brad is because Holy Mountain records, I'm probably going to end up remembering or saying this wrong, but partially or fully analog with some of the things that Stan does. So Brad specializes in that and can get the most out of the mixes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brad's name comes up on this podcast a lot. He seems to be the guy. I think I forget who it was. Maybe it was Greg Wilkinson, who sends all his mixes to Brad. I forget.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
Nice.
He's a good engineer.
Yeah.
Brad knows his stuff, definitely. this is your first album for Relapse. You talked a little bit about not knowing who was going to release this when you were recording the album. How did it end up being Relapse?
It was, I mean, we credit entirely to Charlie, who runs a record shop in London called Crypt of the Wizard, which is located above Holy Mountain, where we recorded. He, I guess, had some contacts with Relapse just by ordering wholesale for the shop. And one of the reps from the label was in town and stopped by the shop, and, they were chatting and, asked, are there any good UK bands that are worth being aware of? And he just said, it just so happens that there's a death metal band that's mixing their album downstairs called Vacuous, and that kind of got our foot in the door. He ended up introducing us. We sent them some rough mixes, and yeah, they were interested, and that's how it happened. So yeah, 100% Charlie is responsible for it.
That's excellent. What do you guys have planned in terms of shows, tours, maybe festival appearances for the rest of the year?
So to, I guess, celebrate the release, we've got a live show on the 1st of March at a festival in London called Life After Death, which is a really, I guess, unique and special event that's curated by Crypt of the Wizard, which is the record shop that I was mentioning earlier. So we're doing a full album set at that. Then in April, we're doing a UK headlining tour with a French sort of like black crust metal band called Cavalry. So we're doing like a week-long tour around the UK. And then we got some festivals kind of dotted around later on in the year. Some have been announced, some haven't. But yeah, that will see us going to Europe. And then we'll see beyond that. Hopefully, in the new year, maybe we get some stateside offers. Who knows? We'll just play it by ear, pretty much.
Yeah, we'll see what comes our way after we've got the album out there.
I mean, now that you're on an American label, I'm guessing that you guys are looking to maybe play some festivals at least in the US.
Yeah, that would be cool. It's like very financially difficult for a band to go over to the US, but yeah, if it works and we're able to do it, we'll be there.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, the second Vacuous album is called In His Blood, and it will be released on the 20th of February through Relapse Records. Michael and Ezra, please tell everyone how they can order the album. What's the best way to get it?
The best way currently is to pre-order it via relapse.com. They'll have all the variants there. You can also go to our Bandcamp, which is vacuousdeath.bandcamp.com. And yeah, you can find all our stuff on Instagram as well. So at Vacuous Death, we'll have all the links there.
Do you guys want to say anything about the vinyl versions that Relapse is putting out? I think there are 3, right? 3 variants?
Yes, the 3 that Relapse are putting out. The standard one is like the Pool of Blood one. I can't remember what the other 2 are called. There's one that Crypt of the Wizard in London has got an exclusive variant, which I think is almost sold out. I don't know what it's called, but
I think that is pretty sold out.
Okay,
actually.
sorry, whoever's listening, you missed the boat on that one.
Yeah.
As far as you know, no plans to repress?
That was like a sort of one-off exclusive for that specific shop.
Okay.
Charlie had like a little Obi strip,
Yeah.
And it was this kind of yellow and red, like speckled splatter. Kind of looked like a kidney infection type thing.
Yeah.
Cool. eBay, I guess, for the collector types out there.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned the Bandcamp page. Is that the place to go for merch, t-shirts and stuff like that?
it will be.
We are terrible at stocking our merch, but it will be.
Yeah.
Relapse.com also has a few shirts available.
And if people want to follow Vacuous online and get updates on tours, merch, more vinyl, that'll sell out probably by the time people hear this podcast. What's the best way to do that?
We're most active on Instagram of all platforms, so that's at Vacuous Death.
There's a link tree in the link section of the Instagram page as well. That's got everything we've mentioned in it.
Is there anything else you guys want to say?
No, just check out the album when it comes out. Hope everyone likes it. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for listening, anyone who's listened this far, and hope you enjoy the album when it comes out.
Very cool. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man.